most of the things you've done in your life, or put another way, is the world different because of you? Is the last day that you're here in a few days, will that be the first day of the rest of your life? It should be. But shoulda, coulda, woulda is not a strategy. Most people, in this group included, don't take this seriously, and now that I have my monk as, not my idol, but he spent 2 summers on a fishing boat saving money. He thought it was going to take 3 summers, but then somebody explained to him overtime. After 12 hours, you get double time on the ship. So then he said, fuck, I don't need sleep anyway. He didn't say, fuck, I don't need sleep. I can do this in 2 summers. Now see, that's the antithesis of how you think. Some of you back in your heyday, if you ever had a heyday, might have thought that way. My faithful butler told me to lie then. God damn it. It's so hard to get good help. And he's got great stories because he worked at Buckingham Palace, who I knew for a long time. Said that he will not live in Buckingham Palace because it's a tip. A tip means in British, it's a shithole. And the guesstimate for refurbishing, not modernizing, but refurbishing is about 190, you call it 200 million pounds. 250 million bucks. Some of the carpets in Buckingham Palace have been there 300 years. Now, I know they've been cleaned, but when people want to say bad things about it, they say they've never been cleaned. We have antique furniture, and I know and they've got furniture probably as old, if not older, than we have in the castle. The thunder boxes, the toilets, the one toilet that you guys can use in the castle as you come in the main hall is to the left, and it's Thunderbox, and it's not the original Thunderbox, because when we bought this place, all the toilets were Thunderboxes, meaning there was water above, you pulled the cord, and the water made like a thunder noise as it came down, and you got a free douche if you were taking a dump, and you flush the toilet before. And all the women get it. And I tell the gals, I didn't make the speech because there's no gals here, you're going to get your dirty snatch cleaned out, just like a douche, a bidet, because the water hits the porcelain, boom, splashes up, and you have water up to your waist. And we dismantled 17 Thunderboxes, so we'd have parts for one Thunderbox, because they don't make the parts anymore. And so that's the only Thunderbox left. But he won't live there because it's the renovation will be 3 to 5 years. That means 10. I was thinking last night, this is my prayer list, I say every night, and every one of my mentees, man, woman, and it, meditate. But me, I don't meditate. I'm not as harsh as I used to be. Meditation is for losers. But I'm at that end of the continuum. And but I've been saying the same prayers, more or less, except for the people I've added to the list since I'm 5-6 years old. I have the same rosary that I had when I was my first communion. I have other holy relics, not holy in the sense that the church would consider them relics, but I've had them 65, 70 years. And it's the routine. There's a section later in the seminar, before you ask me, what do the high performance people do and what are their habits, all that shit, which if you looked at the website, and it's all online. But anyway, and I spend 15, 20, 30 minutes, probably 40 minutes with him asking questions, explaining to you what the kids do. But they all meditate, every swinging dick and every paratist. And about 20 plus years ago, I really tried to understand why. And Sally, finally, not right away, because I make high performance people make decisions quickly. Now, this is really important, not just me pontificating. Make decisions quickly and change their minds slowly. You're just the opposite. Remember that slide I had? If you had to consult anybody you weren't here, Dustin. If you had to consult anybody to come here, it speaks volumes about you. Remember that slide? High performance people make decisions quickly and change their minds slowly. If ever, which is the antithesis of the planet. But one of the things when I go through the section about the traits of high performance people, that's not the right word, is that they make decisions quickly, and not as quick as I do, or the Elon Musk or the Steve Jobs of this world. And when I was brushing my teeth, it's about the only time I contemplate life. So I'm brushing my teeth. And I was brushing my teeth this morning, and I brush my teeth in the shower. I shave in the shower to save time. I get haircuts in the limo, on my plane, to save time. In my office, I don't go to get, to the spa to get my nails, all that horse shit. I don't do any of that. It's a waste of time. Anyway, getting back to meditating. But every single one of them, and back 20 years ago, when I was trying to ascertain why the guys and the gals meditated, and none of it was cogent, good shit. One, because maybe their parents meditated. Two, because they read a book, but they meditate. And I stopped trying to figure out why. But getting back to this seminar, I probably won't change this list while I'm alive. I add on to it. When our children were little, I had certain prayers for the kids. And then when they grew up and they more or less accomplished everything that I prayed for, and then they had kids. So now my grandkids have taken the place of our kids. And I have a generic prayer for the meatheads, which I think is like pissing in the wind. I'm wasting my money. But I do it anyway because old habits die hard. And every once in a while, it's like I told you, the little girl that we took in when she was 8 or 9 or 10 years old at the Holy Family Orphanage in Manila. And I saw her now with, she's got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. She used to live under a bridge. We used to eat garbage. And so that's one kid, though, 20 years. And Sally said, if we capitalize this, you know how much money we put into that one kid? I don't want to think about that because she's trying to say all the money we gave to the Holy Family as those nuns, we got one kid out. Now, you hear people talk about if I save lives, if I changed one life, it was worthwhile, right? You hear that horseshit. That's horseshit. So most of the things I talked to you about yesterday, personal development and how that started, all horseshit. And how it's $1 billion industry. It's $1 going around to 1 billion people. And many of you have attended their functions, the guys and a few gals. And as one of the guys in this room asked, what kind of support do we have after the seminar? I go, fuck all. Don't call me. We don't take your call. And then if I consider talking to you, I have somebody go back and check your file. I mean, they turn in the homework or they late to class. Because I take notes every time I go back to the office. Dustin was a moron. Or the kid, I'm getting tired of the fucking 22-year-old, Swiss kid. And he's really Asian. He hides it pretty well, but he's really Asian. Because there are no questions to ask me. I skim through 2 or 3 emails. And normally my emails and all my correspondence is read by somebody else before I get it. It's read by, my life is run by 5 women. And I have my life categorized and or split up, if that's the right word. Delegated is the right word. In 5 different parts of my life. And so I never read anything first. I'm either reading it second, third, or fourth. Because some things I don't get because they know that they shouldn't send it. And that's 99% of the mail I get. Or not mail, correspondence. Why waste my time? Because it is a waste. Most of the things you've done in your life, or put it another way, is the world different because of you? Is the last day that you're here in a few days, will that be the first day of the rest of your life? It should be. But shoulda, coulda, woulda is not a strategy. Most people, this group included, don't take this seriously. And now that I have my monk as, not my idol, but he spent 2 summers on a fishing boat saving money. He thought it was going to take 3 summers, but then somebody explained to him overtime. After 12 hours, you get double time on the ship. So then he said, fuck, I don't need sleep anyway. He didn't say, fuck, I don't need sleep. I can do this in 2 summers. Now see, that's the antithesis of how you think. Some of you back in your heyday, if you ever had a heyday, might have thought that way. I alluded to yesterday that we're doing changing our estate planning and a new foundation and a bunch of stuff. And the first time I did it in 1987, this time I'm not going to have individuals as trustees. I'm going to have institutions as trustees. Things that I'm fairly confident will be around in 100 or 300 years. But you need support because you're weak. Just as I tell you, don't tell your wife or your girlfriend or your brother or sister. Some of you have already called. But it was unbelievable, the phone calls you made. Then we took all the phones out of the castle. And then you found the phone in the kitchen. And there'd be a queue. Like in prison, there'd be a queue looking over their shoulder to see if John, it wasn't John in those days, but how you need support. And you need people to validate your fucked up idea. Because down deep inside, they're fucked up, but you still want validation from somebody else that thinks, they're okay. And one of the biggest difference between high performance people like Steve, like Elon, like myself is they do not live by tacit approval. Tacit approval is, and I mentioned this, I believe, the first night. We're all in the room and somebody comes in. Let's say I'm not the chairman, but I'm just the CEO, and the chairman comes in and talks a bunch of shit. And I don't say anything. I don't correct him. I don't add or detract from his talk. Now, all you guys leave to go to your direct reports, like you directly report to me. This is too many direct. You should only have 3 or 4 direct reports, but I'll get into that later. And so you go off to your divisions and you say, the old man, which is me, says this, that, and the other thing, when I didn't. I just did not interrupt him to tell him he was full of shit. For those of you that have been in the corporate world, you don't interrupt your boss. I did, but you don't interrupt your boss because you're afraid of getting fired. And what you're really afraid of is you can't get another job. And because you live hand to mouth, they still say that, hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck. You live paycheck to paycheck, you can't pay your fucking rent or your bills or whatever. And you're all in the same boat. Just as they tell you now, financial planning, and I was one of the founders of the Certified Financial Planners. I was one of the founders. That you should have 6 months, not security money, savings and emergency money, like a 6 months cash. But we're going to teach you the day before the penultimate day, the day before the last day, that's a backup plan. And this model has no backup plan. You've seen on YouTube, I spend between 120 and 125% of every dollar I've ever made until I turned 60. If I made $1 million, I spent $1,250,000. If I made $10 million, I spent $12 million, et cetera, et cetera. Because I never wanted to have a backup plan. Because I always wanted to run towards the gunfire, and metaphorically speaking, I added the metaphor 10, 15 years ago because we got some lawsuits. Kill everybody. And when I turned 60, Sally and I decided, they call it we were going to downsize. We were going to sell off all our shit that we had all over the world. It took us 7 years to get rid of all our shit. We had a lot of shit. But I call everything shit. It's not shit. We had houses, estates, and there's 2 or 3 penthouses I wish I kept. I wish I kept the estate in California, where on the right hand, I looked at Malibu. On the left hand, I looked at Newport Beach. And in front of me was Catalina, and the whales used to go like this in front of my house. Fucking dynamite house. And I sold it. Anyway. I have no backup plans. So all these things are foreign to you, and you take them not on purpose with a grain of salt, but that's Dan. But all the high performance people are the same. Remember the first day, the slide was success leaves clues. This could be Elon Musk telling everybody they were wrong. This could be Steve Jobs telling everybody they were wrong. This could be me. It's not likely going to be you because you got a mortgage to pay. I've been asked 4 or 5 times, should 2 or 3 of you have quit your job and you can spend full time on QLA? That's the best scenario. It's also the hardest scenario. Some of you have 6 months savings. One has 9 months savings. One of you thinks they can last a year and a half. You're not gonna. That's all bullshit. You're not, because life happens. Man plans, God laughs. But that's the best way to implement this program. But if you're a medical student, I don't believe we have any in this group, and you're in your last year of med school, stay. But if you're not in your last year of med school, adios, motherfucker. One of you is cunts hair away from a PhD. I told him to go ahead and get the PhD. And he's in an environment where everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody's a PhD. Now, all these things just float off my lips like I'm taking a shit. But every one of them is critical to whether you're going to succeed at a fast pace, medium pace, or slow pace, or succeed at all. We got a couple of Belgian waffles, not like the Belgian waffles that you heard on the webinar. And I asked you, what do you think about him or him? Now, I already know he's successful. I've seen it with these eyes, and I've seen how he's changed. When he decided not to finish his master's in math, his parents hate me. Well, I probably have 300 or 400 or 500 parents that hate me because they dropped out of law school, they dropped out of med school, they dropped out of whatever, and they didn't finish. Currently, I have some teenagers, their parents beg me to please have them graduate from high school. The kid doesn't need to go to high school. He needs high school like he needs AIDS. But I rarely make exceptions, but I made an exception. Not because he needed high school, but because it was immature. I was very immature. I was immature until I was an officer leading men. But guys, you're not paying attention. You just, do they still say, do kids still say, whatever? Do they still say that? Well, when our kids were growing up, whatever. In other words, they'd say, that means, okay, I'm going to do it, Dad, but you're full of shit. And it means, I'm going to do it. Whatever. Then when I found out what whatever meant, whack, I'd loosen their teeth because that's being insolent to me. And I would never, you saw what my dad looked like, I would never, ever, God forbid, he should think I'm insolent. But he didn't have a father. Dad was gunned down or died from corona in 1918. Whatever, in the family is going out of their way to clean up my grandfather's act. For whom? Who gives a fuck? And all these things, it's like the Chinese water torture. And they drop 1 million drops of water on you. It's not the first 50,000 drops that make you crazy. It's the 800,000 drop. And poorness rubs off. And poor attitudes rub off. Toxic attitudes rub off. And getting back to tacit approval, they go back to each one of your divisions and say the old man, agrees. Because I didn't say anything. And I've always, since I'm 5, 6, 7 years old, have had my alligator mouth overload my hummingbird ass. I couldn't stay still. And that's why I used to go to the principal's office 3 times before lunch. Now, I didn't equate this to, but I had a pair of balls when I was 5. And some of you in this room at 45 still. And it's impolite or it's not kind, or I don't know the right words to tell a guy there's a slide coming up. Most people in the world don't have the balls to tell themselves sub rosa, meaning silently that they don't have any balls. Because the definition of having balls now, grit, temerity, have changed. Some of you in this room are actually considered manly in your groups, which I find a fucking hoot and a half. But there's meaning in every word that floats out this old man's lips. And you pile all those words together. Remember, you're the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. Maybe one parent, a mom, a part-time dad, maybe not a part-time dad, maybe a sibling, older brother, older sister, a grandparent. And what the fuck do they know about anything about raising a high-performance person? They know nothing. In one of the webinars that you saw yesterday, there was a woman that was talking to Gabriel, and she misspoke and said, when do the lawyers and accountants bill you on your contingent fee? And he corrected her and said, there's nothing contingent. Now, a little background on that gal. She's 60 years old, took early retirement. She was executive VP, number 2 or 3, depending on you look at the structure, at a $100 billion company. High-powered woman, big-time high-powered. Her father was a retired, very senior military guy. She took copious notes. And she said the word contingent, which is verboten. Nothing's contingent. First of all, accounting firms can't do work that's contingent on anything. They can do it on delayed fees. And yet she sat right back there where you that went to the seminar and paid money to listen to bullshit. And she knows better, but she's got 40 years. She went to Wellesley, if I remember correctly. She's a super bright gal. If she had been willing to stay another 5 years, she might have been CEO of the big company. So or a person like that, who meditated, by the way, a person like that, and then we have the average meathead coming to the seminar. It's not easy. It's not easy. And for those of you that have already called home, I don't know if I should pity. I shouldn't do anything. And if it was a regular seminar and I had something to sell you, I don't give a fuck. I got nothing to sell you. But you can't help yourself like the nymph. And I saw some more about Elon. Elon Musk hasn't trained anything for anything, although they still believe that he will be shamed into it. But I don't think Elon feels shame myself. So he may not do it, but it's for some other reason. But Elon meditates. Why? Back in the day in the 70s, when I was on Wall Street, I mean, you'd find it looked like talcum powder in all the bathrooms because they were snorting cocaine. And I didn't partake in drugs. I tell the story, and it's not a story. A few years ago, I'm in Amsterdam, and Sally and Vinica went out for lunch, and they brought me back. The older I get, I have a sweet tooth. I've developed a sweet tooth that I never had before, like all old gits, I guess. And they brought back big cookies like this. I didn't know they were marijuana cookies. So I ate about half of a cookie in the afternoon, get up from my nap, and boy, that fucking cookie tasted good. I couldn't fucking believe it. Jesus Christ. Where'd we get these cookies? I want some more of these. And then we were at dinner that night, and I'm saying this, and Winica, dinner still tasted, exceptionally good. And then they all giggled and laughed and said, well, those are marijuana. But this is serious business. It's not a joke. Goodbye, YouTube.